Hey, this is Luke from Leicester City Down Under. Welcome back to the channel. Here to do a brief recap and preview for the game against Middlesbrough. I'm just going to bring in my main man, Chris here. Chris, how you
Good.
going, all right?
Well, yeah, go and say good afternoon, or what is it? It's good evening over there, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry we're late, guys. It's 7 past 10 p.m. here. Yeah, let's get a quick preview before bed, mate.
Well,
Try and catch you guys to reach
if
the
you
playoff.
insist.
Yeah, nah, I'm all about it. How you feeling, mate? We just lost to Leeds. We talked about that briefly on the post match on your channel the other day, but had a bit more time to soak it all in and think about it, process it a bit more. How are you feeling about it?
If you'd said to me back in July that, you know what, you're going to be at the top of the league for most of the weeks, and you'll only lose two games, you'll have conceded less goals than anybody else in the league, and you'll be the joint top scorers, like I say, sat at number one, I'd have bitten your hand off. And yes, it's disappointing that we lost, but it's not the first game we've lost. We'd already lost to Hull, and I don't think there's any shame in losing to Leeds because probably apart from Sunderland, they are the hardest team we've had to play this season.
For me, they were always the one I was the most concerned about, and it just clicked for them at the right time. And I completely agree with everything you just said. Um, the two only things I wanted to quickly touch on this before we move on to the Middlesbrough game is two things. One, was I keep hearing all the time, oh, we need a plan B. And what about a plan B? Well, to be honest, I'd rather get plan A right first than rather be confusing the players and being a jack of all trades and not having any plan right at all. And then they would, potentially lose faith in Enzo. It's working at the moment. I know we just lost, but how do you feel about that, Chris, in terms of a plan B?
If your plan A is working well enough, you shouldn't need a plan B. Having said that, obviously, it's always handy to have one. Um, the plan B that we've employed this season is that we just swap players, and we take player X off and put player P on. Same position, same type of player, but every player is different. So if you've been defending against, I don't know, Fatawu all game, and then suddenly McAteer comes on, he's going to be played slightly differently in a different way to Fatawu. So it's almost like changing things. It was very disappointing to see and hear Enzo's excuses for not making changes. It was almost, I wouldn't quite probably go as far as Brad did and say that it was Rodgers, in all but name. But it was a bit disappointing to think, they made five subs, we only made two. There's no point in making change for change's sake. No, there's not. But we had one shot on target all game. We were 1-0 down. Make changes because, like I say, McAteer will do something different to Fatawu. So just try changing it a little bit. And you've got to remember
You
as well. This was Leeds United we were playing. Their manager Daniel Farke has been promoted out of this league twice with Norwich. All right, he's also got relegated, but he knows what he's doing. And how many times last season did we say, and the season before, well, like when we played Bournemouth, the Bournemouth manager was a caretaker manager that had never managed in his life, and they beat us. They outthought us. And, we're up against a manager that's been doing it for a long time. Enzo's he had 12 games in Italy, he's had 15 games here. So he's had less than 30 games up against the guy who's used to getting out of this division. And so we shouldn't rip ourselves too much up, to be honest with you. It's one loss. We're still top. Ipswich have blown it. They if they'd have won both their games, they'd have been 1 point ahead of us now. But yeah, they didn't. They lost or they drew. Sorry, two games. So they must be kicking themselves. So let's not get too upset. Let's just rein it in a little bit.
Thank you. Everybody calm down, for God's sake. Thank you. I completely agree. And you segued perfectly into what I was the second thing I was going to mention was, and shout out to Brad, in terms of what Brad said in terms of Rogers-esque, I think there's kind of two reasons. The first one, just quickly mentioned, was, in terms of changing like for like or position for position, the subs that we're normally been making and rotating, we're not available. Eunice Ackland usually gets subbed on if he doesn't start. And McAteer's only just been readily available and fit. And he had that, so that I want to touch on it was in a minute. That was interesting that he wasn't subbed on at all. But yeah, and Ndidi. So Ndidi and, one of those other wingers start, and then you see Eunice Ackland come on and Cassidy come on, whereas they've been starting. So the usual typical subs that we have seen in the so far this season, and they weren't made. And in terms of only making two subs, which I think, even though those few players that we have been using were unavailable, was I think this was such a competitive game that I think that we are starting to slightly see favourites and players that Maresca trusts. And I just felt that maybe this one game he was a bit too nervous to trust other people. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand why.
Yeah, he shouldn't be nervous. We've had big games before. When we played Norwich, that was a big game. When we, at the time, now obviously they're down near the bottom. Same with Southampton. She shouldn't be a manager that's afraid of making changes. I mean, I always look at Sarah Vaughan, the women's England manager, and she would take the equivalent of taking Harry Kane off for England and putting somebody else on. Unless you take those chances, what was wrong with bringing Cody on and sticking Vestergaard in the box? Because I tell you something, we were creating chances, but there was nobody in the box on the end of it. Now, I only said Vestergaard because he's 6'12", whatever he is, and just having that big presence in the box might just have caused a bit of confusion. And, if you can cause confusion in the box, put a shot in, that how mistakes happen, that's how you get lucky deflections and what have you. But, that's an option. And it's worked in the past. Steve Walsh, defender turned striker. Matt Elliott, defender, scoring 2 goals against Tranmere in a League Cup final. So it works. It's an option. But why wasn't that? If we're going to lose 1-0, we might as well lose 2-0. But let's go down.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Trying to do something, not just sit there saying, well, we're playing well enough. And yeah, we did. But one shot on target from this team is bad. It's poor.
It's interesting you say that, like, yeah, for sure, go down swinging. But the weird one was like, you're saying, the wingers getting the ball at the pitch, especially that first half, they really put them to the sword. But in terms of no one being there, that's interesting. Sometimes, you're seeing Vardy do a lot more now as well, dropping real deep, or Kalechi. But like a lot of times, you're getting the ball up there, and then there was no one there. And then by the time there was, all the defenders had tracked back and got back there, and it's a lot more convoluted in the final third, trying to get a cross in and etc. So it was a little frustrating. We've seen that before. Like we've seen that was the thing that they talked about after the Hull game. Marissa come out and said we're going to work on the ball in the final third, and then we came back and absolutely battered Southampton, which old mate Chris here was lucky to be live at, so it must have been a treat. But I'm hoping we work on this, but
I'm sure we will. Like I say, we're 15 games into a project that we're hoping will be, 2 seasons at least, because we want the same players, the same management team to be, if we go up, to still be in place, and then another couple of seasons after that. So, we are, it is only the foot in the water. There's still plenty to come. What the other disappointing thing for me was that the thing that I don't think Enzo reacted to was Somerville was the best player on the pitch, for not just for Leeds but out the whole 2 teams. For me, he was the man of the match. He was roasting Faz down that our right, their left, and of course what was happening was Ricardo is normally in that right back role. He goes into midfield unless we're defending, and then he comes back to help out. Well, he was spending most of his time back in that position because Somerville was doing so well, because Fatu wasn't maybe defending as well as he could do. So we were almost losing that midfielder. When we did get the ball back, there was no, Ricky was not in midfield. He was still back. He'd had to be dealing with Somerville. So why didn't you look at that because I could see it. You could probably every fan could see that Somerville was. And I said that's because we've got to watch this Somerville, and he was roasting Faz alive, and I think he should have done something about that a lot
It's a good
earlier.
point you bring that up. That's everyone complained about Chowdhury, defensive midfielder, coming on when we were losing, but I think that's pretty much everything that you just said is precisely why, mate. He got run absolutely ragged that game. He was awesome, Ricardo, and he did drop back a lot and cover for Wout Faes, and I think that's kind of why they were able to have to push him more up the pitch and then bring Hamza Chowdhury on, because he would have been absolutely knackered, mate. But
Yeah, but again, when we're 1-0 down, is it a defensive midfielder that we need to bring on? No, because like I say, you're 1-0 down. If you're 1-0 down and you've got 15, 20 minutes to go for it. Don't defend a 1-0 down. That is Rodgers-esque.
that
And
was, yeah.
and if need be, bring Fatawu into the middle and stick McAteer on the right. Yes, he's only just come back, but he can do 20 minutes. I'm sure he's a bloody athlete, a professional footballer. And the other thing is, let's not forget, had Fatawu's effort gone in, we would have been looking at a completely different game.
Yeah, so we only had the one shot on target, but for me, that's pretty close as it gets on target because that crossbar is still
Well,
rocking
that
at the
didn't
King Power
count
as we
as on
speak.
target, did it?
I
'Cause
know it didn't. I know, but it was
that should have been. I mean, literally. I mean, it could have dropped down on the line and gone in off the goal kick, and it was an amazing effort. And if we don't sign this guy up, even in January, something is wrong. But had
yeah.
that actually gone in, we would have been looking at a completely different game and different result, I think.
Oh, 100%. Show that man the money. You've been
Yeah.
reading my mind tonight, mate. I was actually going to mention this before I'll actually get into the Middlesbrough game, but just one thing that I've put to a few people. And in terms of, I want to reverse that. I think instead of Cassidy, do you think, and excuse me if this is mental, instead of Cassidy playing in the position he is, because for me, he's not doing it right now, but I think personally that swap Cassidy for Casey McAteer and keep Fatawu on the right side wing? Or do you think that's ludicrous? Have uh, have McAteer as a high pressing 8. He cuts in a lot more, makes those runs, almost striker-esque. He's a bigger lad. Could probably hold his own a bit better than Fatawu.
I only said that because I think Cassidy had come off at that point, so we weren't able to use him. I mean, I feel sorry for Cassidy because everybody else has come in and clicked and settled straight away. He's come in having won this golden boot for this, the golden sock for that, and the golden butt plug for something else or whatever. And he's got a lot, and it's just taken him that little bit longer to settle in. Before the Leeds game, he'd had 2 pretty decent games standing in for Ndidi. I think it shows how much we miss Ndidi. But he had a couple of good games. I mean, if Pratt was not, comes back from injury, there's an option. McAteer, I've seen on the left. He started on the left pre-season. I think it was Northampton. He was absolutely hot. He's obviously played on the right when he's played, for the in the Championship. I don't know what he'd be like in the centre. Wingers in the centre, his strength for me, McAteer, is cutting, like you say, cutting inside. Well, if he's already inside, I'm not sure kind of where he goes with that. The problem is at the moment we don't have that option. I mean, we've got Alves coming back, Baybrook coming back. I think they're more central than anything. But when that will be, I don't know. Tom Cannon's coming back. So does Vardy drop a little bit deeper, maybe, and play that role? If he's not as good up front as he used to be. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but he's getting on a little bit now. Maybe have him sat.
Yeah.
The problem is we and I'm not saying we've got a lot of injuries. We still got a damn good squad. But like I say, for me, McAteer goal going in, it's different, and I think we just should have made some subs. Even if we're not changing the plan, just change the players because that can just make a difference to a game.
Fair call. Fair call. Enzo Maresca out. He's rubbish.
No, I
I'm
mean,
just
this is
kidding.
it. I mean, people, where's Boris when you need him?
Yeah.
But people, like I say, let's not get too wound up on we've lost a game. We've lost 2 games out of 15.
And hey, funny stat: we're the only team I believe in the championship that has not had a draw.
We're not. No, no. I would have taken a draw on Friday night. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Don't worry.
but I mean, Leeds. We had some Leeds fans coming on the post match. Well, not the post match. It was the match day live. It was a post match bit trying to wind us up, and we were going like, yeah, they were coming on. Yeah, we were the better team. Around. Me and Brad out there going like, yeah, you were. What do you want us to say? You were. But had it for Leeds, had it not been for the trouble they had at the start of the season with players not wanting to play and all this, that, and then trouble behind scenes, they could be where we are now.
Yeah, mate, they absolutely could. I definitely think that we retained a lot more players than we expected, though, to be fair. Like a lot of these players I didn't think were going to be here. James Justin, Ndidi, Kalechi, etc. But they did lose a lot of theirs, but we didn't. Yeah,
We
maybe
couldn't
they
let
could have
too
been.
many go though, could we? Because I mean, when you look, we let more go than we actually brought in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
Yeah.
just think that our squad compared to Leeds last couple of seasons, we've been, Europa League, European level wages and players, whereas I don't think they did as much. But
No.
anyways, let's move on from the Leeds game. We've got
Mm.
Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
They've been playing mostly a 4-2-3-1. They've got some decent attacking options, bit of a young forward line. They've got Sam Greenwood, he's had 10 games and 3 goals. Josh Coburn, 12 games, 3 goals, and 1 assist. And a bit more of experience, 29-year-old Matt Crooks, 4 matches, 2 goals, and 4 assists. And he's a big lad as well. I believe he's about 6'4". So the funny thing is, though, that I believe they've scored 22 and conceded 23. So they're scoring a lot, but they're letting a lot in.
Yeah.
I've got here, they just drew with Plymouth 3-all, lost to Stoke 2-0, beat Norwich 2-1. That's the last games. Chris, does this type of game suit us?
There's no reason why it shouldn't. I mean, this was a team that last season had a horrendous start and managed to turn it round. They sold their main striker, which was, I think, why they struggled at the start of the season. They then had a good run and were in the top 5 for the form teams, but they've dropped out of that again. I'm just trying to get that up there. And there it is. Couldn't find it. Middlesbrough, they're actually still the 5th in the last 6 games. They're 5th on the form table, so they're not to be taken lightly. But the thing is, and it's going to probably contradict everything we've just said for the last 20 minutes, but if we go out, we should be having teams fearing us. I don't agree. We say, well, that's the way they play, so we should change our style, which is a little bit what Mr. Bellend did last season
Mm-hmm.
and the season before. You pick your team and let them worry about us. They should be sat there going, oh my God, Leicester are coming to town. How the hell are we going to deal with them? That's what they should be worried about. And of course, there's more pressure on them because they're at home. But I'm just looking here. They drew with 3-3 Plymouth. I mean, that kind of sums it up really to me because they've scored 3, but they've let in 3. So we do know they are not the best defensive team, shall we say. They lost to Stoke 2-0, but before that, they'd beaten Norwich, like you say, but then who hasn't just recently, Birmingham, again, the teams are lining up to beat them. The Sunderland Middlesbrough game, you've got to take that out of context because it's a northeast derby, and they're something that are on their own, and nobody saw that coming in a month of Sundays at the time. So we can't not take any team seriously. We've got to show all these teams respect, but we should be in the position of we don't fear anybody. And we're still going to lose games. There's 36 games this season. We are going to lose games, but let them worry about us.
Absolutely, everyone should be breaking it when we play them. And we
Yeah,
haven't, like we talked about, not having a plan B. So I don't think we're changing that drastically. What we're doing. The one interesting thing is I have actually got a mate who's a Middlesbrough fan, and I've actually been like watching a couple of
never mind.
podcasts.
Never
Yeah,
mind.
never mind. Yeah,
We all have our
um,
cross to bear.
and he and a lot of concern about their fullbacks at the moment in terms of tracking back. And if there's one area where we can absolutely exploit and put someone to the sword, it's with Mavadidi and Fatawu. But that
If,
leads me in.
if someone to
Go
say
on.
if they are worried about their fullbacks, give Enzo a ring and tell him, because I mean that's just like meat to a starving dog, isn't it? Really.
Exactly. And if they're conceding with our high possession, let's get a bit excited there,
I think
Chris.
you just said, didn't you? They scored 22, but they've conceded 23.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think we've conceded 9 this season, I
Yeah,
believe. So
9. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'm going to pull up my starting 11 here. I do want to make some changes now, but I'm going to pull it up anyway. But I'm expecting Kalechi to definitely start, but work start from the back. We've got Mads at the back,
Yeah.
Vestergaard in the middle, who was crucial to ball distribution from the back, as well as Mads. Mads, Vestergaard, and Winks are so important for me, but we've got James Justin on the left, Faze on the right. Now, I would not be surprised if it's Connor Cody instead. I think Faze didn't have the best of games.
No, Faze is the one that worries me in the back. Is that, and also you got to say, why is it that Enzo looks at that and feels that he's got to have a midfielder that drops into the back four on the right rather than maybe on the left, because obviously Justin's right-footed anyway. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cody. In fairness, I wouldn't mind seeing Sutar back there either.
You've been screaming for him for a while, haven't you, mate? You're well keen for. I
He is.
agree, by the way,
He
too.
is. He played well against Liverpool. I mean, yes, we lost to Liverpool, but the last 2 goals, that you know, one was a wonder goal and one went in off the post and could have gone out. He hasn't done anything wrong, and he played
No,
that Liverpool game and whatever the game was after that because of suspensions or injuries, and did nothing wrong, and then had a good game for Australia against England. Yeah, I would have no problem with it. I think it probably will be Cody, but I've no fear if Sutar comes in at all. I think Faze for me is the one that maybe needs to be rested, shall we say? Put it politely and say rested.
yes, I actually agree. And in that Leeds game, having him for set pieces or any corners, having Sutar would have been awesome.
Mm.
For he's a big lad of his headers, but he's there for the. But moving on, we've got Carter Pereira in his usual role, Harry Winks,
Mm.
Cassidy. I think he's probably going to start. Keenan Drewsbury Hall is probably going to be just about every single game. And then this is the one that I think I should have changed. I think Fatawu should have been subbed. He must have been absolutely knackered after that game. I think I didn't have time to change this, but I think McAteer is actually going to start. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is Fatawu. We are starting to see favourites. Kalechi Iheanacho and Mavadidi in the left. Chris, how do you feel?
Okay, well, Pierre, yeah, you've got to put him in. To me, he was the man of the match against Leeds because he did what he did with Somerville. And although Alan gave it to Harry Winks, which I understand because he's like the Duracell bunny, he's everywhere. KDH and Cassidy. Now, these are interesting because these are the two that I'm probably going to say, I'm not. I'm just having a look who's fit and who is available. I'll look at the last match because those are the two. I think KDH he had an off game as well against
He did.
Leeds. Yeah, so I would probably make a couple of changes there. Let's just see who the options were that we had, which probably weren't great to be honest with you.
Because
Albrighton, we've got Albrighton as an option. Chowdhury, McAteer, Marchal, Daka. I mean, why not give Albrighton a go? Say in that Cassidy role.
You reckon?
Why? Well, why not?
Why
Cassidy,
not? No.
as I say, it's nothing. It's nothing against Cassidy. Um, he he's just, I think, struggling at the moment. He had two good games. Leeds were just in our face from the kickoff. Do you know what I mean? There's been no team. It was like that film Zulu. Every time you put your head up, they were coming towards us,
I know.
and it was. I don't know whether it will wreck his confidence at all, but yeah. Why not try Cassidy? KDH, we haven't really got anybody there because I don't think you could do Chowdhury. I'm not sure. He doesn't. Yeah, well,
See, the
no.
funny thing is, we keep talking about depth, and we have it, but we like in terms of rotations, we haven't really seen anything too major in the midfield. It's been, one of the wingers, striker subbed, or maybe a centre back. We haven't
Yeah.
seen, other than Casadei on for an Ndidi. I can't think of a game where we haven't. I don't think I've seen Pereira get subbed for Chowdhury. I've never seen Winks get subbed. I've never seen Keenan Dewsbury get subbed. I might be wrong about that. If there's anyone watching that
I think
can correct me on
Jude
that,
all has been, to be honest with you. I'm just.
I'll just remove this.
I'll just have a look who else we've got. I certainly agree. I think Iheanacho needs to start. We haven't actually got a great deal of midfielders, funnily enough. Cassidy, Winks, Albrighton, Chowdhury, Dewsbury Hall, Ndidi, Pratt, and McAteer. Why not, like you say, why not bring McAteer in, give him that chat? Or actually, no, I probably agree with what you say. If we're going to do it, stick McAteer on the wing and maybe bring Fatawu and almost give him a free roving role because I think he could cause absolute carnage if he was given that role.
I agree, and I don't feel that's that strange to bring up and suggest or even just talk about. Because if I had said to you before the season started, "Hey, Chris, Wilfred Ndidi is going to be a high pressing 8, twinkle toes," you'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So
And we've got Marcel as well. Let's not forget he hasn't done anything wrong.
I know, mate. He
The
scored that
last
rocket.
thing
We haven't
he
seen him
did,
since.
the last thing he did was score a goal. I mean, we've got to say, he is another option. I would, if I was going to put any of the maybe wingers, if you like, in midfield, I think it is mainly suited to Yunus because we have seen him in that role this season, and he didn't let
Yes.
anybody down.
He's another one I think we're missing. I like Eunice a lot. I think he's
Yeah.
got a good head on his shoulders. I like him. He's got a
Yeah.
good football brain.
Yeah,
He's
he hasn't had a good long run in, and I think the
no,
problem is that we are all so taken with Mavrididi and Fatawu because we've been starved of decent wingers. We've not had a decent winger on the right since the Frenchman, Mahrez.
yeah.
On the left, Barnes, he blew hot and cold. I liked him, but you just didn't know which Barnes was going to turn up. So the fact that we've got these two amazing wingers now, I think everybody's got blinkers on. And we've got to look. And Yunus has not played badly for us when we've asked him to.
No, I completely agree, mate. I just want to get onto the score prediction. Before you give yours and before I give mine, let's hear Brad's if you've got it in front of you.
I haven't, unfortunately, no.
You haven't got it? All right,
No,
no worries.
no. We're doing the prediction show tomorrow, so hopefully he's going to send me. Because I only have Brad's first if he's not on the show because he sends them through to me. But if he's on
Okay,
the
no
show,
worries.
he announces them at the time. So I haven't got Brad's. You're probably going to go 4-0 because you do that every week.
I am this time, actually. I'm going to go 4-0, clean sheet.
Yeah, thank you. I should have had a bet on that, shouldn't I?
I'm going 4-0. What have you gone for? You going to go the Leicester special?
Yeah. I honestly don't think. I don't think they're going to. All right, they might get one. Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 to Leicester.
3-1. Nice one.
Yeah.
Just to wrap it up, they play, like I said, 4-2-3-1. Their players are worried about their fullbacks, and they're conceding a lot of goals, but they're scoring a lot. So I don't think they're going to sit back against us, and that plays into our high possession based football. Now,
Mm.
if we can get it right in the final third this time, this could be a slaughter.
It
Touch wood.
could, and I think the key here is Iheanacho, because he very much acts as more of a link-up player than Vardy does. And all right, you have Vardy on the pitch, and everybody says yes, he has the opposition have to put two players on him, blah blah blah. But he just was never in the box, against Leeds. Every time we got the ball forward, and he was the main striker, but there was nobody there for us to pass the ball to. You know, um,
That's another one that, like, we've only seen it briefly for about, I think it was about 5 minutes, and then Vardy got subbed and Daka went on the wing for some weird reason. But if you were to take Cassidy off, I'd like to have, for that exact reason, Kalechi and Nacho in front of Jamie Vardy, kind of similar to how we used to do it with Okazaki and Vardy.
we've been screaming for two up front for like.
That's the plan B people want.
Well, yes, because it happened that well at the end of that. There was a season, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 seasons ago. Vardy got injured. Iheanacho came on, and because he got a regular run,
The season we won the FA Cup, I think it was.
Was it? Yeah, could well have been. And then Vardy came back, and he did actually play two up front, and Vardy became the provider, and Iheanacho was just scoring for fun. But no, very well. I don't think there's a Premier League team and hardly any Championship teams that play up with two up front these days. I mean, if you're Pep Guardiola, quite often you go out with none up front, play without a striker at all. Daka, I so wanted Daka to do well. Somebody. Well, I actually did think, is it worth giving him a run on the wing? But then they did that with Musa. Musa scored twice against Barcelona, and then never played up front again.
No.
Now we know that Daka's got it in him, 4 against Moscow, for example, but you can't live on those results for the rest of your life, your rest of your career. He's got to show, and he hasn't shown. The only argument in his defence, I would say, is that it's a bit like Iheanacho. When you're getting 15 minutes here and 10 minutes there, you're not going to score the goals. And Iheanacho wasn't at the start when we first signed him, because Vardy was doing so well, and we all said, oh my God, Iheanacho and Vardy up front, we're going to murder it. And of course, we never saw them. I do unfortunately think Daka will be going in January. And, you've got to say that, he was signed by the previous regime. And, if Enzo's come and went, actually, he's just not the sort of player that fits into my squad, why keep him?
It's funny that, mate. Every single January signing we made last year is out of favour, except maybe Suter on the odd occasion. Christian Simmons on loan, and
Christensen's a winger. He doesn't play with. Well, that's not a winger. He's sort of a wing back.
He didn't want to play back three.
So he doesn't need wing backs. So same with Luke Thomas. I don't think we'll see him again. And we have to accept that. We have to accept we all have our favourites, except I don't. I don't like to have favourites in any team, and I love all the players the same, as you well know. And the ref and he's got to say, it's like when Vestergaard was bought by Rodgers. Why, when he doesn't suit your style of play, do you buy a player? Same with any national manager. Everybody could say, oh, you need to play this player, you need to play that player. Well, he doesn't play in a team that plays in the formation, the style that I do as England manager. So that's why I'm not picking him.
That's it, mate. Gone are the days of 4-4-2, aren't they?
Hey, well, not if you're Boris. You're still living in them days. Hello, Boris.
Oh, Chris, mate, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and get some sleep. I will be listening to your show. Everyone, please check out Chris at LTRD TV. it basically helps me carry this channel. Catch me there for the watch along, and I'll be watching your preview as well, mate, tomorrow at work. Or
Cheers.
is it tomorrow? Is it for you?
Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. UK time, and join
Yep.
the prediction league. You're not that you could catch Brad up in 2 weeks.
I think I could actually. Yeah, I don't want
Yeah,
to fall out with him.
I mean, how embarrassing would that be? That would actually get involved.
Righto, Chris. Thanks, guys. Thank
All the
you.
best,
If you
guys.
like
If
this,
you're watching at any point, make sure you sub to this channel. Luke's a great guy. Give him your support and subscribe.
thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I'll catch you on the next one, Chris. I'll see you on the
Take care,
weekend.
buddy. Cheers.